We have just celebrated the feast of Christ the King, and we know that Jesus often used that image of a kingdom that he was coming to establish, even while he didn't want to be a king as such, because his kingdom was not of this world, but rather it was a spiritual kingdom he was establishing. And so he did not speak in terms of might or in power or great wealth or conquering nations, but rather he was speaking of opening up to conquer hearts, to welcome people into the kingdom, to bring a kingdom of peace and justice for all. And he spoke of that kingdom of being like a mustard seed, or sometimes he spoke of it being like yeast mixed with the flour so that the dough would rise. And those are certainly interesting images that we hear. Unless a seed is planted in the ground in good soil and nurtured along, it doesn't reach its potential. In a similar way, unless the yeast is blended with good flour and then placed in a warm and protected spot, it can't rise to give the dough that will be baked into bread. Doesn't that have important implications for you and for me? When the seed of the Lord's kingdom is offered to us, we must be the good soil which receives it if we want it to nourish. And when the yeast of the kingdom is offered to us, we have to provide the warm and protective environment. The Lord offers, but we have to accept. It is similar for other people, and it's certainly similar for our world. I think it's sad to say, but I believe true, that many individuals and many societies are not in the least attuned to the kingdom being offered to them. And the longer this happens, think about how the soil is becoming hardened and the atmosphere is becoming less welcoming to those invitations. And so part of the new evangelization in this year of faith is to reach out to people and to places that are at least nominally Christian and truly re-evangelize. Now, chances are, if you're listening to this message, you are aware of your place in the kingdom, and you're trying to welcome the seed and the yeast whenever it's offered. May our actions, though, and our very lives be drawn to Christ the King, and indeed, as we enter this season of Advent, strive to be those evangelizers, preparing the way of the Lord, preparing the way for God's kingdom, so that all may live in harmony and in peace. This is Father Donald at St. Clement Church in Rosedale. May the Lord's peace be yours.